refining now, they're mostly doing cash out refinances. Or they're getting a home equity line of credit. Unfortunately, we live in a very spending market in a country, right, where credit cards go up. Buying a new car, all those rates have gone up.
However, with the whole waiting thing, but that's what a lot of people are doing now. They're like, hey, you know what, let's sell. We'll tap into that equity because a lot of sellers have hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity that they've built up.
Because there's a housing shortage, period. We know this, nationwide and locally. There's a massive housing shortage, so we need new construction. The problem is, with new construction, it's always more expensive. Your closing costs are always higher.
Markets in the financial world and statistics with the economy. So it's crazy to kind of see investors are like, yo, this isn't happening. This isn't what we thought. We thought things were going to be different. Hello, and welcome to The Real with Rachel, where I'm Rachel Smith, RE/MAX Realtor, and oh my goodness, we have guests today that are super fabulous. Yay to the lovely Brandi Dillion from the agency. And hello again, repeat offender to James Schneider from Eagle Creek Mortgage. Thank you guys for coming on. So let's get real in real estate and talk about some things. Let's lead off with, why are sellers selling right now? Mortgage side, you're seeing some things on sellers selling and rebuying, but realtor over here from the agency, what are you seeing in seller land? Why are sellers selling? Obviously, you've got those big things like retirement, life events, but why in the heck would anyone with, over the last 10 years, 3%, 4%, 5% interest rate, why would they want to sell? What are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of major life event moves. So I'm seeing a lot of, unfortunately, divorce sales.
Okay.
It's big this time of year for whatever reason.
And after COVID.
And after COVID, that's happening. We're also seeing a lot of estate sales. So that's another life event. Death will do that to you, right?
We'll
so
do it from
estate
time to
sales are
time.
happening. I'm seeing a lot of corporate relocations right now. So people are moving because they have to. They're getting good jobs in other places. They're being relocated to another state. So a lot of the sellers that we personally have right now they're like forced to move because their job is requiring that of them. I'm seeing people who move for the normal reasons, like maybe they bought a starter home and their family has grown in the last few years and they're just bursting at the seams and they just don't fit in their house anymore. So those sellers held on to their interest rates as long as they could, but now their pain of being on top of each other all the time is greater than the pain of the higher interest rate.
Yep.
So I'm seeing a lot of that. And then I'm not seeing as many people selling just because they want to. Like, the market is hot, but that's not necessarily a strong enough reason for someone to sell.
Like back in COVID, because the rates were so low, or it was like, let me sell my townhouse and move up to a larger property. So we're not really seeing a lot of that. Hey, let me move up just because, hey, it's cheap money and now's the time. It's more of a catalyst of it has to be, or like a life event of something happening. So I'm seeing a lot of that.
I am seeing investors starting to liquidate their investment properties.
I'm so glad we're talking about that, because that was something else that I wanted to bring up, especially with you, as to, hey, what's happening in investor financial world? What are you seeing in the economic market? Because I know you personally as a LO, you like to over-educate yourself and watch a lot of markets in the financial world and statistics with the economy. So it's crazy to kind of see investors are like, yo, this isn't happening. This isn't what we thought. We thought things were going to be different. And we are seeing some of those investors liquidate. Now, are you seeing more commercial side doing that with like multifamily too? Or are you seeing it more in residential world?
I'm seeing more in the residential world. So the commercial market, unfortunately, in my opinion, is suffering right now because so many of us are working from home now. I think of how many government employees are working from home now too. The need for office space has diminished.
Yep.
And so that market, I see it suffering. I do see the investors that have single residential properties like townhouses, single families that they've been renting out for a long time. They know that the market we're at the peak. If it wasn't at the peak last year, it's at the peak this year. And you can't have a seller's market forever. It's going to change. And they're smart and they're like, I'm going to get my cash out now and put that into something else, another vehicle to make my money.
That's exactly what I've been seeing a lot of sellers that aren't having those life events like retirement or things of that nature. They're like, hey, we know it's coming. We can figure out the next year two. Let's ride that wave of tapping into our equity. Let's cash out now. we'll take that. We can utilize that liquid and rent for a year and still have a nice nest egg. See what happens with the rates, which is a whole nother in and of itself adventure.
We'll get that.
Right. However, with the whole waiting thing, but that's a lot of people are doing now. They're like, hey, you know what? Let's sell. We'll tap into that equity because a lot of sellers have hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity that they've built up. I've even had clients that bought like 4 years ago, and are still making $150,000 of equity and haven't done jack to their property but pay the mortgage, and they're still going to walk away. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's hyper local market, right? You're probably not going to see that in states that you're not going to see that return, but it's very interesting. I think I've seen a lot of sellers. I mean, are you seeing it from a refi standpoint? We got hurt. I feel like refi market got cut 2022 fall. I do it by like my listings and where we were and when the rates went up. Big woods, right? Fall 2022 is when we were like, boom, sucker punch, right? Remember there's that big hike? And then all of a sudden,
Everyone had no idea.
Yeah. Like,
oh my gosh, freaking out.
yeah, right?
We all went on vacation that month.
A lot of people were on vacation.
Yeah,
for like a year.
for
Like,
real.
I'm done.
But like that hurt the refi market, right? So then refis are like, yo, why are we gonna still refi if the rates aren't 2, 3, 4?
Right.
And then with the purchase, so sellers, how are you seeing that response with the equity? And now obviously rates going up affects seller prices.
Right. So there are a couple different things going on. A lot of people that are refining now, they're mostly doing cash out refinances, or they're getting a home equity line of credit. Unfortunately, we live in a very spending market in a country, right, where credit cards go up, buying a new car, all those rates have gone up. Now they're like, shoot, these rates are a lot higher. Even if I sat there and did a cash out refinance, let's just say 7.5%, it narrows their monthly budget down.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
right? I just had somebody cash out $150,000, but it paid off all their credit cards, a couple personal loans, and it saved them close to, I think it was like $1,700 a month.
Exactly,
Right? And
yeah.
but everybody's situation is obviously very different.
But if you have the opportunity though, think about it when you say cash out and pay off all your debt, consolidate essentially. If you're paying 24% on a credit card, you might as well pay 7% on a HELOC. Do I advise from an investor standpoint tapping equity to do that? No, but you gotta do what you gotta do if you know you're gonna sell and still have something there.
If you're gonna sell, but also the idea is rates will go down and you can just get out of that 7.5, bring it down to
Refi
5,
it all.
5.5, whatever it may be. But on the seller side, I think people are starting to realize this is where rates are. Even though I think we're at that point where we hopefully, it's good news over the past couple weeks, that we might be on that trend of going down, not to 3s or 4s. I think that's right? I mean, I got people in the 6s right now, which sounds like heaven.
But I'm like, I'm like, okay, there's some light there.
Yeah, and we'll go over some reports later, but at this point, sellers, you're accepting that that's just where we are, right? It's not going to change. You're not going to get a 3%, but as mentioned, people just have life changes.
Life changes.
Life changes. It's time to get out. You're bursting at the seams, and some people do just want to move. It could be neighborhood, could be anything, right?
With the rates going up, are you seeing some more strategic ways to finance properties? Are you seeing different types of credits being utilized, like buying down the rent? Like what are you seeing for buyers to still feel like this is a smooth move? Yeah.
So I'll use one client that's under a contract right now. They're putting 20% down.
Okay.
They got $10,000 in credit from the seller. They just used that to buy down the rate permanently.
Okay.
So that went from a 7 to a 5.75.
Wait, you got it down that's a chunk.
So that's a chunk.
That's a bracket.
So that's something, and I said, well, there are different ways to use this, but then we figured this is the best way because you're at 5.875. That rate's not going to be there probably for another year or so. And then you're saving yourself the opportunity to refinance and so forth. So it really just depends. Everything's on somebody's situation.
That's all.
And there's no cookie cutter way, but obviously there's still buy downs, 1-0 buy downs, you get the interest rate lower for a year, maybe 2, which can always be broken down, but those are the creative ways, and then there's obviously the hope that
Refinance it later on, yeah.
At this point, prices aren't going to go down anytime soon. I don't feel personally, but
what do you think?
They're going to keep going up.
I think they're going to keep going up.
You think
they might go up a little bit slower than that. They're not going to go up 20%,
exactly.
but I don't see them going down. I think that you hear about like price reductions in the news, but that's because those sellers were already overpriced. It's not that the values are dropping, it's that those sellers were priced too high, and that's just simple supply and demand. But I think we're going up, not down.
Correct. Again, sellers overreaching, seeing, hey, this is what's happened 2020, 21, 2022, the last like flurry of years, and then, I want to be priced here, maybe a tier above, but we're still not. You're overreaching a little bit.
I want to win the lottery too, but I'm not going to price my house $100,000 too high to do that.
Right? Yeah.
They shot for the moon, and then they landed in Canada.
But you can have the moon if you shoot the right, the right trajectory to the moon.
That's the biggest thing. It's
and not the stars.
The
We'll get you the moon.
Something like that.
Something like that. I'm seeing sellers that it's either like a life catalyst, life something, retirement has been a big one, or they want to tap that equity, or the economy, from what I'm seeing out there in the streets and the grocery store lines, isn't looking so hot. So we're starting to see and hear calls from clients that are in distress, again, wanting to tap that equity, but not necessarily for fun and giggles, because it's necessary. And that would be selling, so we're starting to see a lot of that, not a lot, but I'm getting calls, I've got a couple of them, and then also clients, hey, I bought this house a few years ago, COVID, whatever, we've got some forbearance, now's, time to sell, so we're seeing some of the forbearance turnaround come to light.
Right. And
so are you seeing stuff like that with the forbearance come around? Like where it's kind of like, hey.
But I know that they're out there, and because we're all kind of living in like this la-la land, where there was like no inflation. The economy was, I don't want to.
We were in a bubble.
It was inflated, right? I mean, it's just,
false hope.
Once again, we're a very spending nation. I'm not saying everybody is. We live in a very recession-proof area, which is great.
Yeah,
but that being said, there are a lot of people that they look at this mortgage and say, I got a cheap mortgage, I can start spending elsewhere. But now inflation's caught up on day-to-day bills. I mean, everything's up. Water bills, everything. All of a sudden, the car goes down. You gotta buy a new car. All of a sudden, that car payment's a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a lack of really budgeting, really taking a look at what their day-to-day lives are. And we're such a superficial place. Nobody wants to ever take back. They just want to keep moving forward.
That's true. It's also a human and American nature.
Yeah, it's an American nature.
Yeah, more American than human, but hey.
But I mean, that happens.
And it is, and I feel, I don't know how you feel. Do you feel we're in a recession right now? Do you think we're full-fledged? Do you think we're entering? How are your thoughts economically?
So, we're starting to see, and this is where
we'll lag data.
Yeah, this is where we're seeing rates kind of, I think we're at that point where rates might just start dropping. Once again, not to 3 or 4, but like people are 6, 5, like.
Not to make an impact in your monthly mortgage payment and your qualification power.
$500, right? Yeah. So a couple of reports that came out recently. I don't know if anyone's seen the Barbie movie. There's a part where it's like, you gotta work hard, but you can't work too hard. You gotta work in the kitchen, but you can't work too much in the kitchen. That's kind of where our economy is, right? You want people to have jobs, but you don't want too many people to have jobs.
Right?
And for the first time, our non-farm payrolls were down off the estimate by 70,000 2 weeks ago. So that means our economy is flailing a little bit there. Also, the inflation number from yesterday, the CPI, there's still inflation, but it wasn't as much as they expected. So that boosted rates to go down.
Yep, sends a signal.
Yeah, so we're
There's
about
a little glimmer of
100 basis
hope.
points in 2 weeks a month. So,
However, the basis points and the impact that has in the mortgage market,
right.
It's just kind of watching as to how that is.
But the biggest trigger right now is that some of the lower interest rates, those bonds are being bought up by investors. That's good because that means they believe we're going to get there, and that's going to keep
because everything's an emotional, behavioral watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we're at that precipice where hopefully, we have no news coming out anytime soon. Yeah. Anyways, for the next 2-3 weeks.
I was going to say next week.
Yeah. So I think we're going to be in a nice little sideways pattern of rates being in the mid to high 6s.
I think it gives us hope for the second half of the year that the Fed hasn't done anything rate decrease at all this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that kind of says, all right, second half of 2024, there may be a glimmer of hope to have some type of rate reduction going on. And even if it's minute, hopefully it will still impact enough emotionally for the investors to break down.
They're not correlated. The Fed says they're going to drop the rates.
It's not mortgage market.
Influences,
Correct,
right?
correct. Yeah, and
But
that's something else
it
that.
makes you feel better.
Thank you,
It sounds
Landon.
better.
Yeah.
So I mean, plus right now, from last year, inventory's up 35%, and I think that around the nation. I think
I was like,
and I think maybe not as much.
I don't feel like it is, but it's still around the nation because the data is, and we're in such a tight market, anyways. The DC metro, Baltimore metro area, that little trifecta between Baltimore, DC, and Frederick. That little triangle. It's almost. I mean, we talked about this with the professor. Recession-proof, but again, it's we're still feeling it.
Yeah.
We're feeling it,
Right.
but.
Truth is, we kind of want a recession. Recessions are good
Because
for
that's
mortgages,
really what
it's
makes
good
the
for
rates
housing
go
market.
down. Everything's in cycles.
I feel like we're more like, I don't know, and I'm not an economist, but I don't feel like we're in a recession. I feel like we're like in a reversion, like the mark, like it's correcting itself. It's painful, but with how crazy as everything went, when rates went so low, that like it really ruined everything as far as I'm concerned. Like a lot of people capitalized, but a lot of people were damaged by that, and something has to happen to revert it back to like stable. I think that's what's happening. It's painful.
It's a course correction.
Yeah.
Yeah, growing pains.
It's recalibrating.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let's recalibrating. Good job. Good job. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the second half of the year to see if Mr. Powell decides to give us good news next time he's up there. But, and if that's the case, but then are we going to have another frenzy and influx of buyers? Oh my gosh, the rates dropped. Now's the time to buy. Now's the time to buy.
More sellers, but there's still going to be more buyers than sellers, I think.
And that's where it comes to the price is not really going down, and that's why if you can get in now, you get in now.
I mean,
not, and as much as I'm not the biggest fan of the saying, but you date the rate, marry the house, that rate can change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the house pricing is only going to go up.
there's always a tip or a tat. Like right now, the interest rate might be higher or whatever, but the housing price is lower. If the rates go down, the price goes up.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of timing, I think, for each person. But there's always a tip or a tat, like I like to say.
I mean, right now you're probably going against, well, depending on the area, you're probably going against maybe 3, 4, 5 other buyers. That rate drops 0.5%.
That's number doubles.
All of a sudden, it's double digits.
Yeah.
You're getting new pre-approvals every week. Your realtor's sitting there signing offers over and over. Like, let's put another offer in. You're offering on 3 houses in a weekend.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't want to go back to that situation. I don't remember because I blocked it out because the trap. Just a lot of dragging around everywhere, writing multiple offers all the time, right? But yeah, I remember that. It would be nice to not go back to that unless you're a seller.
Yeah.
However, for the economy, the housing market, I don't think that would be very good.
Yeah.
But what are your predictions moving forward for the rest of 2024? Do you think we're going to kind of stay where we're at with inventory?
I think we're going to stay where we're at till probably the end of the year. I don't think rates are going to fluctuate so much that it's going to really change the buyer pool tremendously. I'd be surprised. I mean, hopefully next year, historically speaking, anytime there's an election year, usually rates tend to go down for whatever reason that is. So I'm hoping that happens this time next year. Who knows, really, of course, but I don't think we're going to see much change the rest of this year.
I agree with you, and I think 2024 is going to be the come to Jesus year of sellers realizing, hey, I think, this is where it's at with the rates. If we're going to sell and then buy, purchase, this is something that we have to come to grips with and terms with, that these rates are going to be, I don't think we're ever going to see anything below 5, at least within the next 10 years. And because again, cycles, think about the last time, everything's typically like 30-year cycles. So yeah, I think kind of having that realization of, hey, this is the reality in the housing market. These are where the rates are going to be. If there's going to be any type of deviation, it's going to be small enough, nothing crazy like we just saw with the pandemic. Again, nobody has a crystal ball, but not enough to influence the rates to go down drastically enough to make a big, this is the moment type decision. I think obviously every house purchase and sale needs to be planned and calculated, but I don't think the rates are going to make anyone jump off and go buying right now.
No, I think the magic number is probably 5. 5.5.
I would love 5.
Because if you
Healthy 5.
if you have a 3, you can digest going up to 5.5. But if if you have a 3 and all of a sudden you're like, man, now it's going to double a 6.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because then your payment doubles.
Yeah, exactly. Your mind.
But it's a mind wraparound, because even if you're taking liquid, like equity from selling, and then buying something, it's like, damn, I'm buying something now that is at 7 versus the 3.5 that I just sold. Yeah, I got 300K sitting in my back pocket, but damn, I've got a 7% rate. So I think if you could come out of that, I think even the 6 bracket, 5, but it just feels better, and I think it's better, I think, for the housing market investment-wise with equity too.
Right.
Because you want people to have a little bit of equity going in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a stronger market as well, because there are a lot of professionals, realtors, mortgage advisors that got left, right? And it's a smaller pool, and it's a stronger pool to where.
Same in real estate.
And I think that
Survival of the fittest.
I think advice is going to be better. You know?
I agree with you, and I'm refreshed by it.
Yeah, and instead of just being like, hey, here's your house, let's get you in it.
Yep.
Is this the right decision?
Correct.
Now?
It's going to be more client based. Is this the right? Exactly. Is this the right thing? And not just, do you want a house or not? Because you got to weigh everything. It's going to be a little bit more of the, hey, all right, let's go back and let's really process what's going on with the contract and inspection and contingencies and make sure financials are good, versus just flying to get in the house, and then 6 months later, that buyer's like, you know.
Yeah, because that's the worst call. You call somebody 6 months later, how's the house?
I've had that happen.
Yeah, I've been eating ramen for
Hey,
the past 3 months.
yeah, I've had that happen where somebody's like, hey,
I didn't have my Netflix. I couldn't even afford it. Like, God.
But it gets to that point, so you just want to make sure, obviously, your clients are. New construction. Are you doing a lot of new construction stuff right now?
Some, not a whole ton.
Thoughts on new construction? Do you think we need more of it? Do you think we need more building in the Frederick area? What are your thoughts?
I mean, we always need new construction. It's a necessary thing because there's a housing shortage.
Yeah.
Period. We know this nationwide and locally. There's a massive housing shortage, so we need new construction. The problem is with new construction, it's always more expensive. Your closing costs are always higher because you're paying it, not the builder. And maybe the builder is going to give you some kind of credit, but that credit just absorbs some of the excess cost. You're still paying
ultimately it's
a huge
manufactured
premium. So if you're going to be getting new construction, I don't advise someone to buy new construction and only live there for a couple years before moving somewhere else. Like new construction, I recommend you live there for 10 or 15 years because new construction is a slower vehicle for your money.
Correct.
Your values don't go up as quickly. They basically have to finish the neighborhood first before it makes sense for someone to even consider selling, right? And it's just, the cost is so much higher. It's right for some people because if you can't find something resale that fits your needs, go build it.
Yeah.
Like ranchers and senior living right now, it's almost impossible to get a rancher that's in good enough condition or in a neighborhood that is
because the baby boomer generation now starting to retire, they're gonna want that main level living, and you're seeing an influx of selling these bigger homes after their families, and now they want to do something smaller and downsize or what have you.
My last 3 new constructions were all senior communities.
Oh, wow, that's very interesting intel.
And if you look around, they're popping up. You got Clarksburg, you got up here in Frederick. There's
high price too. I'll tell you the price. I'm like,
I
go for it, but people are paying it. But hey, you know.
55 and over?
Yeah.
55 over. We're like in the 8s. Like some of these are 800K.
We wouldn't know anything about that.
I know, right? It's way far away for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you guys got another 30 years. You're good.
40.
40.
But no, I mean, there is. So that's true. The new construction, trying to kind of keep up with that. I think from an investment standpoint, weighing that out. We're seeing sellers sell. It's just lots of crazy stuff in the market with real estate. But let's get to like the most important thing that I've been dying to talk about, which is very scary to talk about. Very scary to talk about. However, we're gonna get right to it because this is Real with Rachel. We want to talk about it. Let's talk.
Media hype is making people believe.
It's a cash grab. It's an attorney cash grab.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a realtor, so for me, it's a no-brainer. Like, we have this already. And buyers who have bought houses, we just had a closing today, and they asked about it, and they were like, "What do you think is going to change?" And I said, "Well, nothing. It's exactly the same as what you just went through." And they were like, "Okay, yeah, that's a good point." We did sign a buyer's agency. It was clear how the terms and the relationships were put together, and how the brokerage relationship, and how there's even a document. It's called Understanding Who Real Estate Agents Represent. We signed that. It explains who the listing agent represents, who the buyer's agent represents. It says what a sub-agent is, and that person represents the seller too. So
correct.
In Maryland, you're right. We're ahead of the game here, and I think that people need to just take a deep breath and calm down a little bit.
Right. So even in our listing agreements, it states, hey, this is how the contract between the broker, aka the agency, and Brandi, you a salesperson representative or broker, is going to get paid between the broker and the seller. This is how you're going to get paid, and you get to decide how you want to share that commission. It states it on there. So if you want to get the buyer agent the full commission, you very well can. Or if you wanted to keep it yourself, it is a job. That's how Maryland laws are. That's how it's laid out in our listing agreement, right? Where it states, hey, we get to dictate how much. Does the seller sign it? Yes, of course. Yeah. But I think where the issue had been, why are the sellers paying? You're not. Sellers are paying the listing agent, and it's the listing agent that gets to decide in agreement with all parties as to how they're gonna share their commission. You're not writing a separate check to the buyer agent. There's no separate anything. It's the same darn amount that's customary and traditional in all states, I would presume.
So here's how I look at it, right?
Just the way it's being talked about.
So here's how I see it, right? A seller is going to hire a listing agent with their brokerage to get their property sold. The brokerage is going to have a fee associated with their service, just like any business.
Correct.
And then that business is going to determine how are they best going to do their job with the means available. So for example, I as a listing agent, I am going to be compensated, right? Everything I'm doing up front is a risk.
Correct.
I could choose to spend my money on anything. I choose to spend my money on photos and videos and maybe a drone image. Maybe we're doing floor plans. Maybe we're doing, there's a sign that costs money. Every part of the process costs money. And a huge benefit to sellers is being able to entice other agents with buyers to bring them to our homes and buy the house.
Well qualified buyers that are ready to go, educated, and not get scared out of a transaction.
So for me, that part, I think it's great that the sellers are understanding how the agents are using that as leverage to bring buyers to their houses. But to me, it's no different from me spending money to advertise online or put a sign in the front yard or get some photos or compensate someone. I think to me, it's all the same realm, and it's never been the seller writing a check directly, right? It's always been the listing broker writing or sharing whatever amount agreed upon with the buyer's brokerage. And I think that this media thing is making a huge misconception to people. And I blame the lawyers. Honestly, the lawyers are really smart, because what's going to come out of this is a whole bunch of other lawsuits. And they're going to make a ton of money. I might be in the wrong industry.
Yeah, a whole bunch of other lawsuits.
On the pipe.
I think it's insane. Again, the media hype. I don't want to get political about it, but our president getting up there saying, we're going to say saying, whatever it was that he said, I don't think that help matters anymore, because what it's doing is it's putting out this information, I think, to sellers or to consumers saying, oh, this is a scam. You've been overpaying, you've been doing, that's not the case. I think it's just the way that the disclosure is and the misinformation and the misrepresentation of exactly how business is conducted in the real estate industry. I think the lack of transparency, that's where the issue, obviously not from Maryland, but that, because it's scrupulous to the T. I think that's where a lot of the issue lies. It's just not the clear communication as to how we service the client and how we are paid with that client, right?
Yeah.
Or through that client. So,
and to your point, there's a reason why for sale by owner properties stay on the market for eons.
Yeah.
It's because there's no money put into the marketing. There's very little offer to the buyer agent, which obviously you're just kicking out a whole bunch of qualified buyers, because those buyer agents are making sure that they're bringing people that are qualified to that property.
yeah, because it's our reputation. If I'm calling a list agent and I've got a buyer, I want to make sure that, I hate to say that, but you want to make sure that your buyer's ready to go, because I'm not going to call up, hey, what's going on? I've got a great buyer and this is my friend, and that's how we get deals, right? By getting entertained. Hey, here's this very well qualified buyer, and if you're not, that's going to ruin your name. You're not going to be able to get into the next buyer that actually is qualified, right?
Plus, if no one's willing to work with real estate professionals, the agents, then you have to hire attorneys. That's very expensive. Attorneys charge by the hour, which is a lot of time.
So yeah, we might be going back to school to do that whole attorney
To do
thing.
the
That
whole
doesn't
lawyer
sound
thing?
like a bad gimmick right now.
The other side of it too is if there's no real estate professional and they want a buyer to compensate their own realtor, I can understand that concept. You want to hire someone. But buyers have down payments. They have closing costs, which are greater than sellers' closing costs by far every time.
Every single time.
How can they be expected to then also now pay another amount? Like even hiring an attorney or a realtor, either way, that's a lot for a buyer to have to pay now. And the seller of that house, let's keep in mind, they never had to pay an agent when they bought the house. So they already saved their money.
That's a great point.
You know?
Because if this is a new thing and that's how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go in without having to pay the agent or whatever, flat fee, a few $100, whatever. But now it's kind of like passing it down.
Tit for
tat.
It's all cycles, right?
So,
you have to buyer agent. You know, you didn't have to really pay for that when you were going in. It's all financed, whatever. But now as a seller, you know. But I mean, I think that's where the value is. It's just being more transparent about how things are done, how we do our business. If you're paying that fee off the start, you're not going to be saving any money by not giving them that much. Because what if a buyer agent does come with a very well qualified buyer? They're not going to want to. They want to get paid, right?
Well, we can't work for free all the time.
Not all the time. You're losing that qualified buyer that was ready to go at full price or ask. Then you'll get an unrepresented buyer that isn't qualified, that's going to run you through the hoops, cost you a month on the market, and only give you list price.
And possibly never close.
Something.
And that kind of circles back to what I said earlier. With the market being where it is, it's taking out people that just got in this industry just for that.
That I do.
To try to make a quick buck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think
Survival of the fittest, like you said.
That's like,
And I think that's where the value is going to start showing, especially buyers agents receiving for part of it, percentage, whatever, the listing agent puts together. And I think it's gonna, the buyer's agent has its place and does a job in spades, right? And I think that's really gonna show, especially with new crop
that's gonna show. I think either nothing's gonna change, or there's gonna be a whole shift where, I mean, buyer agency could potentially become obsolete, and at that point, buyers are just gonna be calling up the list agent like it's 1990 all over again.
I know, we're going back in time, back to the 80s.
Right? And at that point, if I'm the list agent and you're calling me unrepresented, and I have agreed to a contract to represent the seller,
So who are you really gonna take care of?
best interest
seller,
to
definitely.
get the seller's most amount of money in the quickest amount of time. And if you F up and taking your deposit and getting a new buyer, what do you think, right? I mean, so it's people like us. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but you're a top producer. When you have, if a buyer comes to you, obviously you want to do what's best with your seller. But your job is to make sure that they're paying top dollar.
My job is to get all of their money and put it in my seller's pocket.
So think about that, right? So think about that, because that's why we are where we are, right? Because we're good at what we're doing. So if you now don't have another agent to stand in your corner to make sure that we're not taking advantage of you for the seller's best interest, then think about what that's gonna do. Buy buyers.
I do think though,
corporation.
There's a talk about it.
I mean, I think that's what's ultimately happening, but that's like me and my conspiracy theory thinking, oh my goodness gracious, this is breaking the backbone of America's economy by cutting not only with the rate situation, but now you're cutting essentially buyer agency. Think about what that's going to do to the job market.
In the end, it still hasn't even come into fruition. There's still 2 months until
the alleged settlement.
Yeah, but I do agree. I think that in all, there's not going to be much of a significant change per se. I think business is going to be conducted as usual. I think Maryland's already been on the up and up on a lot of that with transparency, and I think the sellers that really want the best representation are going to be realistic and understand what it takes to get that. All right?
Which, how often is Maryland ahead of the game?
I mean, in taxes? In taxes, maybe, I don't know, but I don't know.
I do think though, with all of the negativity surrounding the whole lawsuit, I am actually, can't believe I'm saying this out loud, I'm kind of glad that it's happening because I think it's going to force our industry to do better.
Yeah.
Our industry doesn't always come with the best reputation, and there's a reason for that. I think that, like you said, some of the people who aren't serious about it are getting out of the industry because they can't handle it. It's going to force agents to be stronger. It's going to force agents to be educated more. It's going to force everyone to do a better job, and I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, girl. Let's get it. Heck yeah. Huh.
Girl power.
What about you? What are you doing?
You can high five. You can high five.
Oh yeah, go on, girlfriend.
You got this. You got this. I think it'll be interesting. I'm excited to talk about stuff like this with you guys. So thank you so much for coming on. Again, James Schneider with Eagle Creek Mortgage, Brandi Dillion with the agency, lovely realtor and lender. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye.
Bye.